Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about The Ghost of Slumber Mountain. This is part Lost Film File, part review, as only 18 minutes of this film survive, which was originally made to be 40 minutes, and 3 reels, and actually was cut down by the producer or manager, I guess the producer, after its big premiere. So I'm both reviewing what we have and then talking about what we lost. The Ghost of Slumber Mountain is a very important film in film history. It is Willis O'Brien's first people interacting with a stop-motion creature type of movie. Unlike The Lost World and King Kong, where you have people in the same shot somehow, which is really, still to this day, I think is pretty awe-inspiring. This is different. He has them interacting. He has someone shoot a T-Rex, but it's basically like just done by editing. You know, have him shoot a gun in one shot, and the other shot is a different shot of the T-Rex getting hit with a bullet, and it looks like they connect. But in 1918, 100 years ago, by the way, when I made this, that was actually amazingly impressive. And it is impressive that Willis O'Brien was able to come up with something like that. Now, he had previously combined live action kind of sets with stop motion and things of that nature, but combining live action with animation was a pretty big deal at the time, and this was a huge hit. It only cost about $3,000, which 100 years ago was more than $3,000 is today. That's how inflation works, and made about $100,000 in profit. It was a huge hit. People were blown away by it, and the way they shoot it, it actually makes it look like it's like documentary footage or something, which was kind of more of a thing at the time. Like, people, since there's no Discovery Channel or various YouTube videos or whatever where you see people go to various places, the only time they could see some of these like various traditions that weren't in America or weren't in their own culture or something like that were through cinema, basically. And this kind of plays off of that in a way. It's a little smarter and self-aware in that way, because it does shot in more of like, I guess what would be considered now more of a documentary style. Also, Willis O'Brien has a way of animating these dinosaurs to make them look like they react to things. They have emotions. You see the T-Rex licking his lips, things like that. So there's a real feeling that this is real. He really gave them real personalities and emotions and things like that. And he did, frankly, an amazing job. Now, the plot's a lot more simplistic than something like The Lost World. Is basically like this guy, Holmes, tells his nephews about an adventure he had on Slumber Mountain, and he looks through these kind of like telescope-like things, and he can see into the past, but then is transported to the past, and he finds these from the belongings of a dead hermit, or they believe dead hermit, called Mad Dick. So he looks through them and starts seeing dinosaurs, and he's transported back to then. A lot of people say this is the first film to have time travel in it. I don't really have much to contradict that, but like, sure. And then he interacts with dinosaurs, and then he suddenly sort of wakes up, but sort of, we're not sure. And yeah, definitely is more about showing off these special effects than the story, unlike Lost World, which obviously is based on a book. This is original, I guess, written by Willis O'Brien as well. Now, this film was a big deal, and I think this and The Lost World, maybe people were still blown away enough by movie magic to really believe it was real, or like how they did that didn't seem to be something that most people understood with stop motion animation. That's how ahead of his time Willis O'Brien was. And when they premiered this film in a 40-minute cut, it was eventually cut down, and the footage was used on 2 different films, one being Along the Moonbeam Trail and a documentary called Evolution. And you can actually find Along the Moonbeam Trail was lost until about 10 years ago, and Evolution I found on YouTube. And some of the animation in that looks better. The footage, if you'll see through clips of this, is very murky and hard to sort of see in The Ghost of Slumber Mountain. But it's kind of unfortunate that they decided to cut up a lot of the effects that Willis O'Brien worked so hard on. I don't know why exactly they did that. Maybe the film was like way too long. Maybe that cut didn't work as well. We'll never know. But the actual cut of the original Ghost of Slumber Mountain is lost, actually. I mean, I guess you could say it's sort of found, because they use stuff in Along the Moonbeam Trail, which they kind of consider a sequel, and then the documentary Evolution, but it kind of makes it sound like they kind of just did it and didn't really give a shit, so I don't really have a lot of faith in what they did with that footage. Later, in his next film, The Lost World, Willis O'Brien would actually be able to have, you know, live action actors and stop motion in the same frame, which is pretty awe-inspiring, and to continue that. But this is really the first time anyone had done anything like that, and it's really cool. I like how he's able to bring dinosaurs to life. I like how he kind of just came up with inventive ways that weren't necessarily like technological breakthroughs. They're just really someone who understands film editing. You know, you can have me interact with someone and not have us not be in the same room, and if you edit it the right way, it'll look like we are in the same room. That's movie magic, basically. When that guy shoots the T-Rex, that's a real moment there. I don't like this as much as The Lost World, but I like it as kind of a interesting historical cinema kind of moment, kind of seeing like how stop motion was kind of coming to be, how they're learning to use it, to make kind of one-of-a-kind kind of events. And there's certainly stop motion had been around for a while. Willis O'Brien had been making films for the Edison Company, but this was like a different thing entirely. It really showed off what Willis O'Brien could do as an animator, and you know how much he understood cinema as an art form. It's just unfortunate we'll never get that 40-minute cut. As much as we get Along the Moonbeam Trail and Evolution, and we sort of have that footage there, we don't really have the cut as he intended it. And I think it's sort of sad when you have these big moments in cinema history, like, yay, they did this thing, and then the people who owned it, or just from the luck of the draw, they're just sort of like, yeah, we didn't care that much, so like whatever. Especially since this film was so successful, I guess that's sort of why they made a sequel and so forth. Herbert Dowley, who produced it, just sort of used the footage. It was sort of their manager, Walter Hayes, who decided to cut the film down so significantly. You know, maybe it works better this way. It does sort of work as a completed film, so it's a little weird to, like, if you didn't know, I mean, the editing's not great. It feels like there's something missing a little bit, but it does work as a whole, so you could actually just sit there and watch that. You're not watching like pieces of a film, which I think is sometimes frustrating. But in this case, I would actually say you could, like, you know, I'm sure Turner Classic Movies has played this at some point, and if they haven't, they should. It did push silent cinema and cinema at the time into places that no one expected, and it had the amazing tagline, "These giant monsters of the past are seen to breathe, to live again, to move and battle as they did at the dawn of life." And I think this film does achieve that, you know, on the kind of what these films were trying to do. Like a film like this and the films that a guy who produced King Kong later did, like films like Grass and things like that. Those films were to show you something you'd never seen before. It's kind of like a spectacle. And I think Ghost of Slumber Mountain works within that framework, basically. It works within that tagline. It works in that idea. And it still works within that. It might not, you know, you see this cool, weird prehistoric bird, you see a T-Rex, you see a Triceratops, you see a Brontosaurus. You almost feel like you wish you could see more. And maybe this cut was the right way because people would come back. Maybe the 40-minute cut wouldn't have worked. I have no clue. There's not very much known about that 40-minute cut, unfortunately, because most people who saw it are most likely dead and stuff. But I wish they hadn't, and I wish this film could live on in its true, you know, unaltered form. But the altered form, which is the version that most people saw, to my understanding, there's an 18-minute version. I've heard it was cut down to 11 minutes, which sounds almost like too short, unless you cut out a bunch of that live action nonsense, which is like, fine, whatever. So, which there was more stop motion animation, which it sounds like there definitely were. It's a damn shame that we're missing out on that, missing out on, you know, Willis O'Brien, who is a great animator and a great filmmaker in filmmaking history, and not to get to fully appreciate his vision as he was sort of figuring out stop motion for basically everyone, as he would influence Ray Harryhausen and countless others in special effects going forward. This is really one of the first building blocks, because after this he knew he could do The Lost World, which would also become insanely influential. This is like the influence that went on to do the influence that went on to influencing everyone. So in a lot of ways, this is a very important film. I recommend actually trying to see the 18-minute version, but I hope at one point we can find all of that footage and maybe restore what he was really going for, and maybe it was better than the thing that we saw at this time. But at this point, we have no clue and really have no reason why they didn't do that. Much like how the character of the uncle just suddenly comes back, and it's kind of a mysterious ghost of Slumber Mountain. Unfortunately, this true cut of this film is a ghost of cinema history that will be lost to us forever, but at least we can appreciate what we have and kind of gander at what Willis O'Brien really did from the short amount of footage we have of the Ghost of Slumber Mountain. So if you have seen The Ghost of Slumber Mountain and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.